everyone, Melanie Minschinger here, illustrator for Gina K.Designs. Today I have a new project for you with my newest set from Gina K.Designs open book, and I'm going to be showing it with one of the flowers from my Stately Flowers series. This is the mock orange from my Stately Flowers 11 set. So what I wanted to create on this card was the look of sketching outside in the garden. You've got your book open here with the pencil. You stamp this in a gray or other ink color, and then you're going to do some no line coloring to make it look like the real thing. Just really fun with this illusion. I've got great replies and responses for this card when I posted on social media, so I had to follow up with a video. In addition to these two stamp sets, you're going to either need a large and a small block for the book image and other images, or the Misty. I'm using the large Misty today. The ink pads that I'm using today, I've got the Gina K.Designs Amalgam ink. This is the warm glow that I'm using for these flowers, and I'll show you the other amalgam options we have for no line coloring in a minute. I've got the Gina K.Designs Ocean Mist and Jellybean Green for some sponging on that background. And then I've got the Gina K.Designs Jet Black Amalgam ink for the book, and I'll explain in a minute why I chose to use the jet black there. Then I've also got, just in a spot because I don't have the full-size pad yet, this is the new Gina K.Designs Amalgam Soft Stone ink, and I use that for the flower, the book, and the name of the flower. We've also got just some sponge daubers, so I grabbed one for the blue and the green. I've got my tidy towel for cleaning off the stamp. You'll need some scissors for creating a mask, and just some thin copy paper or masking paper. I've already done that, so this is one that I stamped and cut out and have shown in other videos, so watch those for more masking tips. And then the cardstock that I'm using today, I've got some of the Gina K.Designs Dusty Rose, the Black Onyx, and then some white. So I used the Ocean Mist here, but I just wanted to show how using the pink is really going to make that flower pop. So let's begin by doing our stamping. Be sure to watch to the end also, because I've got some different variations on this card that I want to show you that I think are really fun with the book. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to put my white mat here in that upper corner, and we're going to stamp the book first. You always want to stamp what you have in the front first. So I'm going to overlap the book across that bottom corner of my mat, just so that I've got some room up above here for the flower. So just about like that. I'll place my magnets down, pick this up, and you'll want to make sure that you don't have any air bubbles in here, and that's going to keep you from getting more ink on the center of that page and making it more likely to accidentally transfer ink that you don't want to onto your mat on those nice white pages. So I'm inking it up, and I like to have the edge of the pad going across that spine, and that is going to really prevent you from getting ink there in the middle. You're not going to see this part down there, so really don't worry about that. But all right, so the reason I chose to do black here, I could have done no line coloring to make the book look more realistic like those flowers, but I really wanted you to have contrast from the gray stamping that I did here for my sketch, and then also I just kind of like the push and pull of the reality and then the whimsical. So I just think that that kind of makes a nice contrast there in theme and in color. All right, so we're done with the book now. The next thing that we want to do is we want to add one of these flowers. So for this one, like I said, I used the mock orange, but then this paintbrush is very popular, and then I've got the Seago Lily in here. But I'm going to do, I think everyone wants to see how I colored this particular flower from the card I showed online, so I'm going to do it again. So there's different ways that you could orient this, but I've got it where the small leaf is at the top. So I'm going to put it right about there. And I'm going to ink it up in the gray because I want this to look like a pencil sketch. And I'll show you some different options, like I said, for how you can do this on the page. Let me make sure that I really got in there those center details. Okay. So close and lift. And then we want to cover or excuse me, clean this with our tidy towel really well, because I don't want any of that gray to show on the no line. And then I'm going to take this mask that I cut out, and I'm just going to cover up the book here. I'll put this down here on the bottom just to cover that mat while I do my stamping. And I want to move this up a little bit, and remember, I want to have that little leaf at the top. Now, it doesn't have to be, you can have it at a slightly different angle, but you just don't want it to look, you don't want to turn it upside down, because then that would not look like the sketch that you were doing. So I'm going to have just a little bit of this peeking out, and it's up to you how much coloring you want to do. I think I'm going to cover up a little bit more of it just so that I don't have to spend as much time coloring it here during the video. You'll get the idea. You'll color both flowers the same way. And put this down. Uh-oh. So it's okay if that moves, because I know where my book needs to go. You just line it right up with that masking. All right, so I'm going to take this Warm Glow, and I'm going to stamp this really quick, and then I'm going to show you our other no line options and explain why I decided to use this one. So stamp that right there. Really get up to the edge of that book. It's okay though if you skip a little bit, just because remember, you're going to be covering all this up with your own coloring. Okay, so the reason that I chose this, I wanted to use the Warm Glow because I think it goes really well with the pinks that I chose to use on this particular design. So another option might be the Barely There. This one though, it is just so light, so it's a little bit hard for me to see when I'm doing my coloring. Skeleton Leaves, this is another nice yellow that is going to be covered up with darker colors. So the lighter the colors you use, the lighter the no line coloring ink that you want to use. The Soft Stone, this is what I used for my sketch. Stormy Sky is another new amalgam ink that we have. Then we've also got this Whisper, and that is going to fade to almost nothing. So that's going to be really good for if you have really light inks. But if you're using maybe cooler tones, then maybe go for the grayer ones like the Whisper, warmer tones, the Warm Glow. So I've got both the pink and the green, but I really like having just a little bit of pink with leaves when I am doing floral cards, because it really just, it adds a little bit more life to those leaves. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of sponging now on here just so that we can get that background on. I don't need to cover up my flower here because I'm just doing very, very light sponging, as you'll see. So I want to do just a little bit of the green, and you can do this after you're coloring if you want, but I just want to add it now because you can make sure you can see how dark it's going to be. You can choose later on how much sponging you want to do, but I just want to go ahead and get this on here just so that you can see how quickly the card will come together, and then that's up to you how much time that you want to spend on your no line coloring. Okay, so I've just barely got it on there, just enough to suggest that there's some soft green grass in the background, and then I can remove this, and now I'm going to use my blue, that Ocean Mist. Or you could use the Sea Glass. That's going to be a nice summery sky. So just very gently. And I don't want to go all over. I want it to suggest that there's some clouds in the background. Okay. All right, so that's all I'm doing there. And I want to go ahead and color this, and then I'm going to add my pencil. So I forgot to show you the markers that I'm using today, I think. So what we're going to be using here, I've got the CR8, the CR6, and the FS6 for those petals. Then I'm going to be using the CG1, the CG2, and the DG3 for the leaves. I've got the IG4 and the IG2 for that pencil and doing my shadows. And then finally some of the FS9, that's going to work really nicely for the wood on that pencil. So I'm going to start by doing these flowers. So I'm going to use the lighter pink here, and I want to just put it, oh, that was a little bit darker than I thought it was going to be, right here in the middle. And then right here in the middle of this flower. And this is all going to get blended out when I use my palest pink. So I'm going to take this FS6 and I'm using the bullet point for both of these. So I'm going to pull this out and then we'll blend it further with some tip-to-tip coloring. But what I want to do is I want to keep this middle section of the petal open so that it looks like you're getting that really pale kind of reflection. And then I'm going to put some of this up here on the outer edge of the petal. So see, you're leaving just that middle part white. And you can spend, the longer you spend on the no line coloring, the more detail that you can create. And put some over here. So we've got this flower that's facing the side. Okay. Excuse me, there's a lot of pollen in the air today. I'm gonna put just some little bits here just to suggest the little folds on these petals on the ends. Okay. And then I'm going to do just some pink under here to suggest that there's that shadow where it's falling. I want to also put some red in the center here. You have all of these little anthers in the middle. So I'm going to add these. And I'm going to go over this with the pink, and that's going to kind of blend that in. Let me go back. So it's really just a lot of going back and forth until you have the look that you want. Oh, and I forgot to put them over here. We can see just a little bit of them peeking out. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to cover those little stripes. So you might choose to do these darkest and tiniest details first while you can see more of that ink. But really it just depends on how much you blend. All right, so I'm going to go over this again. And I'm going to also take that FS9 that I mentioned for the end of my pencil and put that over the pink, and it just has a little bit more yellow in it, and it's just going to add just some depth to the flowers. Just going to kind of add some warmth to the pink so the pink is not as bright. And it just always makes your coloring look more realistic, I think, the more variation in tones that you have. So what I'm doing here is I'm picking up a little bit of that darker pink with my lighter one and laying that down onto the petals. And it'll start to fade out. So then you just go back. So I also have these petals back here. There's one more. And I'm going to cap this and add just a little more up here. And then I'm going to do just a little outline here around each of the petals where they would be casting shadows on the other flowers. Okay. And then I want to do just a little bit of blending on these outlines. So I'm going back in with the slider one. You can also use the colorless blender if you want. And I think I'm going to do just a little bit of tip to tip with this darker CR8. I want it to just be a little bit darker there in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I am going to add a little bit of white with this gel pen, and that's going to really make those little anthers pop. And then I'm going to trace over my petals just to give it a little bit of texture here. And you could also do this with a pencil. I show this in another video on my hibiscus flowers because they have a lot of folds. Could do a little bit in the center there if you want, but that's just going to create some texture on the flower here. Okay, and then we're going to do those leaves. So for the leaves, I'm going to start with my lightest color, this CG1. So I'm just going to put this in, and I'm going to leave an open area also again for that highlight. Okay, so I basically just trace that leaf, and then I'm going to take the medium color, that's CG2, and put this on the side of the light that, or the side of the leaf that's farthest away from the light, and pull a little bit up on those veins, and then just trace the outer edge of that petal. Okay. And then I'm going to take this darkest one, and this is going to go just at the very edge. And you always want to, the no line coloring is just really going to come to life. You have to make sure you've got enough darks to go with your lights. And then I'm going to go back with this CG1 just to blend it a little bit. And you can keep going. I just didn't want the coloring to take too long on this. And I'm going to take this white pen, and I just want to go in and just re-emphasize some of the details in those leaves. Okay. And then I'm going to use that gray ink that I showed you before. Where did I put it? Got a lot of stuff on my desk right now. For putting the name of the flower on there. And I'm just going to ink up part of it. This one has a long name. Some people call it syringa and some say mock orange, so both are correct. So I'm just going to put this right here and put this back in the corner again. And ink that up with my little gray cube. Where did it go? Where did it go? Yell if you see it. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to ink up just the words mock orange here. And I chose gray because I want it to look like I just wrote down the name of that flower as I was sketching. So right there. And then I'm going to take that pencil stamp from the open book set. And if you want to make it to look like an ink drawing, you could use that pen. So I just want this right about here just to look like I laid it down on my book. And I'm going to ink it up with that gray cube again. And so the way this is drawn, the pencil lead is going to look like it's whatever color you are stamping that pencil in. So I didn't do any shading here on this flower just because I want it to look like I'm still in the process of working on it. But so I've got my IG4 here, so I'm going to use this for the pencil. So I'm putting this on the underside, and I'm going to leave just the top edge of that pencil white as if it's got a little highlight on the barrel. And then you can keep building it up there to the edge to make it darker and darker. And then I'm going to use the IG2 for a shadow here on the side, and then for a shadow here in the center of the book. Okay. And then I'm going to use that FS9. I said I was going to go over this just a little bit. This is going to bring just a little bit of a warm yellowish to those pink petals. So it's very light, but it also works nicely for the wood and the barrel. And so I'm just doing that on the edge. And that's it. So you could do some more coloring there if you want. So I'm just going to layer this onto my card. So on the first card that I did, I just really wanted to kind of continue that scene, continue that feeling of sky using the ocean mist. On this one, I wanted to emphasize the pink on those flowers. So let me show you a couple different options that I thought of for how you could kind of change up this look if you're wanting to make this sketchbook look with your no outline coloring. So here is one that I did where I added a pink pencil, and then I did just a little bit of coloring with those markers, or if you have colored pencils, you could do that. And then you would just trim that. So that's just another way that you can kind of bring that color and make your eye move around the card with that pink. One that I did here, this is how I wanted to show you how it would look if you had it stamped in black. And this is going to look more like you actually did an ink drawing and then now you're coloring it. And so I brought in the pink and the green. So that's another variation. And then finally, I wanted to show you one other idea that I kind of like. Because I'm an illustrator, I thought it would be fun to show just inking up part of that stamp. So this is the omission technique. So you would just grab your cube and just do part of it. I would focus on just the flowers because I don't typically skip from one part of what I'm drawing to another part. So just keeping it in the middle, and then it looks like you are really still working on that drawing. So on this one, I put the time spent with crafts is never wasted. That's from Open Book. On this one, I have the hello from Open Book. And on this one, I chose to use the forever from the Stately Flowers 11. So I hope this gives you a lot of ideas for how you can do this sketchbook look with other flowers from my Stately Flowers line or any other images that you have. I really want to try one with this sleeping cat. They make such great models because they're usually sleeping and always gorgeous to look at. So let me know in the comments which of these ideas that you liked best. Please visit us at Gina K Designs and at my blog, Hands, Head, and Heart. Thank you so much for watching today. God bless.